Around 9 months ago, I moved over to the dark side, or light side, depending on what side you're on. I moved from my 2015 MacBook Pro, the last one before they basically messed it up, to this guy, the Dell XPS 15, which also happens to be the last one before they moved over to USB-C too. So here's my experience of doing the switch around 9 months ago and how I felt from then up until now. So firstly, I'll just start off with the design. So I still love the design, pretty much just as much as I did when I first got it. Even with the big bezel at the bottom, which has been gotten rid of in the newer versions, the bottom bit just kind of blends in with the keyboard, so you don't really notice it after a bit. And talking about the keyboard on this laptop is about as good as the laptop that I used to have on the MacBook Pro. Not the butterfly keyboard, the one before that. And I imagine it's a similar one to the new Macs that have come out too. The keys have a good amount of travel to them. I can use it for quite a long period of time without feeling any hand fatigue or anything like that. And yeah, I've written a lot on this laptop and it's felt really good. I haven't had any issues whatsoever with the keyboard. What is more of the issue is the area surrounding the keyboard. So this area is nice to kind of rest your hand on. It's got a nice feel to it, and I do like the look of it, but it is a fingerprint magnet. There are constantly fingerprint marks around the sides of the keyboards, and I don't even bother cleaning it off really because it just comes back straight away pretty much. The trackpad is also pretty great too, and that's coming from somebody who used the Force trackpad in the past. So with this trackpad, you can click pretty much anywhere on it other than right at the top and it'll click down. I've also set it to do the whole Mac thing of you pushing down with two fingers to right click rather than doing it on one side versus the other. And yeah, it works totally great with that too. At first with the trackpad, I did used to have an issue with palm rejection where it wouldn't do palm rejection as well as it should have done, as well as the Macs did it. And I used to end up opening apps by accident and a whole lot of stuff like that. But now I've found that that's kind of stopped happening. I don't know if it's just a case of me getting used to the trackpad or them improving it through software. But yeah, I haven't opened an app accidentally in ages now, and that used to happen to me all the time. One thing that they can't fix through software though is the fan placement, which is in a bit of a more annoying place than it is on the Mac. So I typically use the laptop on my lap, kind of makes sense there. And that can be an issue with this laptop because the fans are located right on the bottom of the laptop. Yes, some of the air comes out of the back, but most of it comes through the bottom. There's a big opening at the bottom with grills, and the fans are basically pointing directly downwards. So this isn't only an issue on my lap. If I've got it on something soft, then that's an issue because it will block the fans and make the laptop get really hot. Basically, the only place you can put this laptop is somewhere that is a hard surface. Anyway though, getting back to the stuff that I do like, the main thing I like about this laptop is the display. The display looks really nice and I still haven't stopped liking it. This is one of those things that hasn't really gotten old for me. I mean, I still look at shows, even if they're 1080p shows, and just think, wow, this looks really good. I do love the vibrancy of the display, and it being OLED and having the blacks be fully black and the whites being a lot better too, makes this display look really great. And it can also get pretty bright too, so using it outdoors isn't always the best thing, but it's a lot better than other devices that I've used in the past. And then if you do manage to get 4K HDR content, that content looks even better on this display. It really does look really good. Games unfortunately aren't displayed in HDR. I don't really know the reasoning behind this, but this laptop just doesn't want to put out games in HDR, even if the game itself does support it. But games still do look really, really good. I think again that's down to the vibrancy and the OLED display that's on this device. I was actually tricked for a while though with this, up until really recently, think that it was actually displaying them in HDR. But yeah, turns out it's not. The option's off in settings and you can't put it on within the game settings either. But games still do look really great. But in terms of games, 4K isn't without its issues. This computer does have a 1650 inside, which isn't a terrible graphics card, but it's not really a graphics card that's made for 4K gaming. So obviously I'm not playing games, or the majority of games anyway, at 4K on this device, and that does bring up some issues. Up until this day, I'm still having an issue with Apex Legends, where When I launch the game, sometimes it opens up and launches fine, but sometimes it wants to keep minimizing because of the differences in resolution. So basically, it'll open up, it'll then immediately minimize, and I just have to keep clicking around and just kind of hope that it opens up properly. This isn't an issue once you get into the game, but because it is at a different resolution, 1080p, to the 4K display, it can be a real pain to just initially get into the game. And this has also given me some issues in other games too. I don't remember which game it was exactly, but there was this game that would only basically show up in 1/4 of the screen because I had to run it at 1080p. So basically, that game did just have to be run at 4K unless I wanted to go into the display settings of the laptop every time and change it to 1080p. And yeah, just resolution difference just causes a whole load of issues. If you want to get this laptop primarily for gaming, just don't do that. There are plenty of other great 1080p gaming laptops out there. I'd highly, highly recommend going for a 1080p, maybe 120Hz display rather than getting a 4K display when you want to go for gaming. This laptop is powerful, but it's not made for gaming. You can do occasional gaming, I mean, that's what I do. But this laptop is more focused towards producing content, towards editing, and that side of things. It's not a gaming laptop, so don't go into it for gaming. But often when I'm playing those games, I'm talking to my friends over Discord. And the way that I used to do that before was by plugging in an external microphone and then obviously talking through that. But with this laptop, I found that the built in mic is actually really, really good. And it's so good, in fact, that when I was talking to my friend over Discord, he actually thought that I was talking through the dedicated mic. So while the built-in mic obviously isn't going to be a substitution for a dedicated mic, when I'm using it for video calling or just voice calling, this built-in mic is more than good enough. I mean, over the past few weeks, I've been doing this movie watching party with some of my friends, and I've only been using the built-in mic, and they haven't had any issues. And the only issue they've been having is when I've pressed down on the trackpad, that's caused like a loud sound to come through the microphone because it's right next to it. But other than that, when I'm just tapping on the trackpad and I'm just talking, they can fully understand what I say all the time. There's no other issues. I can't rub other parts of the laptop accidentally, and that's not going to cause any loud sounds, other than obviously the front of it where the microphone is. So yeah, for the odd video call or voice call, you are not going to have to think about getting another microphone. The microphone built in is really good, which is something that was not the case with the 2015 MacBook Pro that I used to have. And moving on from hardware to software, this obviously is more down to Windows itself, it's not really down to Dell. But I found that Windows runs okay. It's not as stable as macOS, but it does its job. I mean, it does crash every now and again. I found that Windows Explorer does freeze quite a lot more than Finder used to. But for the most part, it's okay. I did have a few issues at first with software, such as with OBS, where it just didn't want to record anything. That was mainly down to an issue between the computer not being able to decide on whether to use the integrated graphics or the dedicated graphics, and there was a whole thing with it. I actually managed to fix this by going into the Windows graphics settings, then going to browse, then finding OBS, and then putting it into power saving mode. But recently I haven't really been having any issues at all. I mean, I've had a few with Premiere Pro, but in terms of Dell being the one that's causing the issues, I haven't really had any in that sense. And in fact, I have found that Dell's first-party apps are pretty good. One of them lets you link up your phone with a laptop, kind of similar to what the Windows My Phone thing does, but a lot better than that. With the Dell version, you can drag and drop photos onto the phone and it will basically send it over to your phone. You can also remotely control the phone from the laptop too, which is something that my phone also can't do. And on top of that, you can also do all of the My Phone stuff, so getting in text messages, getting in phone calls, obviously seeing your pictures too, and dragging pictures from your phone onto the laptop. And yeah, it works totally great. I do wish that it combined the notifications with the Windows notifications and it didn't have its own thing. The screen sharing can also be a bit unstable, at least on my network. This software most certainly isn't the best, and I think your phone looks better, but I do appreciate the extra features. The Dell update software has given me some issues sometimes, and it does just randomly pop up whenever it wants to. But I have found that that's a good way to keep the BIOS updated and some of the other things that I'd sometimes forget to update on the laptop. So yeah, I wouldn't say that these are essential apps in any sense of the imagination, but you know, they do their job and they're pretty good. As for performance, this laptop still works really well. I know this isn't the case on some other laptops, but with this laptop, it can work at full performance without being plugged in, which is very handy because sometimes I just am lazy and don't want to bring the charging cable over if I want to just sit somewhere else for a bit. And that means that I can still work on Premiere Pro or anything like that and not have to worry about bringing the charger and plugging it in. And then when it gets full, I don't have to keep the charger in, I can plug it out and not worry about any performance drops. And the performance that I am getting is really good. For the most part, I can keep things on full when I'm in Premiere Pro and play through videos, whether they're 4K or 1080p. Obviously, if you start piling on the effects and using green screen and things like that, you do sometimes have to go to a quarter resolution. But generally, I found with playback and rendering, this laptop's really good. You know, you can do renders really fast. And in general, I'm waiting around a lot less when it comes to the whole entire post-production process with this laptop. And also as a side note, it's been really nice that I've been able to do stuff while a video's rendering. With my MacBook Pro, which I think had 16GB of RAM, I basically wasn't able to use the laptop at all while I was rendering. I basically just had to leave it because everything else was really slow. But in terms of this laptop with 32GB of RAM, you can do a lot more with it while it is rendering. You can watch a video, there won't be any, lag or anything with the video. So yeah, just as a side note, I would definitely recommend going for 32GB of RAM. It is something that you will really notice if you use Premiere Pro or other video editing software on your laptop quite a lot. The speed is also good when it comes to shutting down and starting up the laptop, although I did find when the laptop puts itself to hibernate, or at least whatever low sleep state it's in when I close the lid, it can sometimes be an issue to start it up again. I have to either press the button down really hard or just keep pressing it until the light shows up on the keyboard, which is basically the only way to let you know that it's starting to power on. There have actually been a lot of times where I've switched it on and I haven't noticed the lights come on and then I accidentally switch it off again. Switching it on is a bit of a pain. And as for the fingerprint sensor, there still haven't been that many cases where I could actually use it. The only real use I've had for it is obviously logging into the computer as well as 1Password. But other than that, no sites really use it. So yeah, I could have done without the fingerprint reader. It's not really that essential in laptop, but it's there, so whatever. But one other thing that stayed the same but has continued to be very useful in the laptop is the indicator light at the front. This light is a very minor feature at first, or at least it seems like a minor feature at first, but it is actually pretty great and it has saved my laptop a lot of times. So basically what the light at the front does is when the laptop's about to run out, it will flash orange. The orange light is visible in my peripheral vision, so I do notice when it starts flashing, and without having to look at the taskbar, I know that I basically should go and get a charger and plug it in. And if the light on the front is white, that means that it's charging, and if the light goes off while it's plugged in, it means that it's finished charging. The battery indicator light on the side has also been a lot more helpful than I thought it would be. It's basically saved me having to switch on the laptop to just check the battery percentage. What I can do is just turn it over, press the button, see how many lights show up, and that'll tell me how much battery's left. So if I want to, for example, go up to my room and use my laptop without having to bring up the charger, if the battery's full, I know that I can do that for a good amount of hours. Whereas if I didn't have that indicator and I thought it was full, but I brought it upstairs and it was like basically dead, that means I'd have to go down, get the charger, bring it back up, and it would just be a bit of a pain. Again, it's not something that's gonna, be a deal breaker if you haven't got that, but it does save quite a bit of time, and it is just a nice convenience feature. One thing though that was definitely better in the Macs was the speaker, and I think they have improved this in the newer version of the XPS 15, but at least in the version that I've got, which is last year's version, the speakers aren't that good at all really. I mean, this isn't too much of an issue for me because I always use headphones with the laptop, but if you want to use the speakers to play, for example, a video out to somebody else or anything like that, it's just not going to sound good. You can put these at full volume, it still sounds pretty quiet, and it just doesn't sound that good at all. But yeah, other than that, 9 months later, I still really, really like this laptop. It's the perfect blend of a device for me. It's got all of the ports that I need. It's got the power that I need to do things in Premiere Pro. It's got enough power from the graphics side where I can play games occasionally on it. And it's just got a really nice design too. It's a nice weight, it's a nice thinness. And yes, you can get devices that are more focused towards being better for gaming, and you could probably even get some that are more focused towards doing content creation. But for me, this device is the perfect middle ground, and it's got a gorgeous display too, so watching media on it is really nice. The people that I would recommend this laptop to are still the same people, the content creators out there. I wouldn't recommend it to gamers at all, especially with the 4K display. Get a 1080p display with a 120Hz refresh rate and you'll be all good to go, as long as you have a good graphics card in there, obviously. But for content creators who still want an SD card slot in their laptop, I think even the newer XPSs have them, even though they've switched over to mostly USB-C. And for people who want a great display to look back on their content, and for people that want the power to make the content, I think this is the perfect laptop for you. But what do you all think? Do any of you have the Dell XPS 15? Do you have another laptop that you think is better than the XPS 15? Or are you a Mac user, perhaps? Let me know down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this laptop. And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to like and comment and possibly subscribe if you want to. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.